All right. Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant and twitch.tv/Gallant Says. You can also catch it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. We are recording this Saturday, October 21st at about 7:25 p.m. There was an email sent out to anyone on the Astros media email list about a punishment for Game 5 between the Astros and Rangers. Astros, of course, won 5-4 on that Jose Altuve 3-run homer in the top of the ninth inning. Hang on to win. Bryan Abreu, who plunked Adolis Garcia turning to Martin Maldonado, shoving Martin Maldonado, getting pulled away, bench is clear. Garcia then goes back towards Martin Maldonado before being held up. May have pushed umpires along the way. We now know the punishment. This is what it reads in the email. Houston Astros pitcher Bryan Abreu has received a 2-game suspension and an undisclosed fine for intentionally throwing at Adolis Garcia of the Texas Rangers during the bottom of the 8th inning of Friday's Game 5 of the American League Championship Series at Globe Life Field in Arlington. All 6 of the Major League umpires deemed Abreu's pitch to have been intentional. In assessing the matter, Major League Baseball took into account the dangerous nature of the pitch and its potential impact on players' safety. Michael Hill, MLB's Senior Vice President for On-Field Operations, made the announcement. Abreu can appeal this. I imagine he will. But if he doesn't appeal it, it's scheduled to become effective starting tomorrow night when the Astros play the Rangers in Game 6. If Abreu elects to appeal, the discipline will be held in abeyance until that process is complete. I'd never heard that word before. A state of temporary disuse or suspension. I do wonder if that's one of those suspensions that will last, or get pushed back to the year afterwards, like what happened with Yuli Gurriel when Yuli Gurriel did the thing with his eyes in reference to Yu Darvish back in the 2017 World Series. He didn't serve that suspension until the next season. But maybe it's different because Abreu hit Garcia. In that email, you will find nothing about Adolis Garcia getting punished or suspended, even fined. I have not seen anything about an Adolis Garcia fine. Hell, I'm just going to look it up on the internet. Put these notes together a couple of hours ago. Adolis Garcia fined. Let's see. Adolis Garcia has also been fined, in addition to Dusty Baker, who was ejected. And also funny, Matt Bush of the Rangers and Lance McCullers Jr. of the Astros. Bury me in the H. Indeed. Kind of funny that Lance McCullers got suspended. So we're going to go in, I will read to you quotes after the game that I didn't get to in last night's stream, said by everybody involved, people who saw what went down in a moment. But this is not me justifying what baseball did. I am guessing that this is why baseball decided to punish Abreu and not Garcia under the premise of player safety. I think it's because, and you'll see this in a Ken Rosenthal piece in The Athletic, because Martin Maldonado and Bryan Abreu did not have the same story. That's all I've got, because it's really difficult to prove intent here. And maybe looking from our perspective, the idea that the Astros would throw at a guy who pimp walked a home run, maybe the biggest home run of his career, down 2 runs in a Game 5 that's tied, it doesn't add up to me. But here is a couple of paragraphs from that Ken Rosenthal piece in The Athletic. Another Rangers player, granted anonymity in exchange for his candor, essentially accused Maldonado of masterminding the whole thing. One of the best relievers in baseball just suddenly lost command, the player asked, referring to Abreu. Maldonado's smart. They got exactly what they wanted. Adolis riled up. Crazy coincidence, isn't it? I mean, this is Astros derangement syndrome at an extremely high level by this anonymous Ranger. Continues Rosenthal's write-up. Maldonado is certainly smart. He also can be an irritant, and evidently he is inside the Rangers' heads. If Maldonado, continued writing Rosenthal, is playing the kind of three-dimensional chess the Rangers players suggested, some teams should hire him immediately as player manager. Maybe that's next for him. And if Lowe, Nathaniel Lowe, says it's okay for Aroldis Chapman to throw a fastball high and tight at Alvarez, then the same logic for Abreu, throwing one high and tight to Garcia, should apply. No? That's what Abreu said he was trying to do. And here's where things get crossed up. My plan was to try to get the ball up and in. I just missed with the pitch. Maldonado, though, said the pitch was supposed to be away and that he set up accordingly. I am guessing if you're going to do an investigation, you're going to probably read transcripts and see if you can find anything in writing that can potentially damn one of the people involved. And I would say that the only thing that they really have to go off of are those two different accounts. That's not me justifying it. I think it's fucking ridiculous that one of these guys is getting suspended. Only Bryan Abreu. If Abreu is getting suspended, I think Adolis Garcia should be suspended as well. Because Garcia is the person that escalated that. They could have just tossed Abreu. But he made that a very, very long situation. One that Bruce Bochy was bitching about afterwards. And I got to say, I really do feel like even though Garcia, like any of us, was justified to be pissed off that he got hit, to immediately go after Maldonado like that, and for things to escalate the way that they did, that lies entirely at the feet of Adolis Garcia, who also lost his mind on that home run. Which also I don't have a problem with. I mean, it sucked to obviously sit back and watch it when he hit it and all the TikTok dancing he was doing around the base paths. But hey, I mean, you know, if you're playing well, if you're doing good things, shouldn't you have a right to celebrate? But let's take a look at everybody's account of what went down. First, I'll read a couple of comments, though. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Read from the713 says, Adolis should be suspended for putting his hands on an ump. You know, I am surprised that that wasn't brought up. It doesn't even seem like the umpires acknowledged it. And I know that they have a pool report after the game. We'll get to what the umpire said in a moment. Ocean Bronze says, obviously these umps can all read minds. Impressive. I think the most rational thing that anyone said is Marcus Semien, the only guy who we know for sure was hit intentionally in an Astros Rangers game. Framber Valdez 100% threw at him intentionally after he allowed that home run in that game that was absolutely falling apart for him. Semien believes it. But Semien basically said, look, they're all going to say that he didn't do it intentionally. We're all going to say that he did it intentionally. The only person that knows for sure is Bryan Abreu. What else do we have here? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. We got some barbs at the Rangers here. They did almost take Jose Altuve's head off in one of the games. You're right. They almost, I think, hit Mauricio Dubon too. That might have been right after. I could be wrong on that front. After the Altuve home run, he did throw it high and tight. I saw Jeremy Branham, my colleague from ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, bring that up. Not a bad point. I don't know if it was quite close enough to go quite that far, but there you go. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, if you look at it from an outside perspective, you can see why Abreu got suspended. Yeah, I'm with you there, but at the same time, it just doesn't make any sense. That's why Dusty Baker lost his mind the way that he did. Before I get into all the quotes, so we can try to comb through what everybody thought that they saw, and if that maybe changes any of our opinions at all. I did want to show you something. I support local art. Amazingly, there are no shirts that are Houston colored that look like this, but I just like to support the local arts. You know? That's what I like to do. Anyway, supporting local art. And by the way, this is my high school hat. It's not a Mike Fiers hat. Not a Mike Fiers hat. Anyway, all right, let's take a look at everybody's accounts of what went down. Let's start with Adolis Garcia. Garcia, per what we heard after the game through an interpreter, I just reacted to the ball that came towards me. He could have hurt me, fair. He could have injured me. I just let him know that shouldn't happen there. Well, who should you tell that to right after that happens? The pitcher? Or Maldonado? Because he went to Maldonado first. I can't lip read, and I don't know any Spanish. I took French in high school. What a waste of my fucking time that was. I did it because I'm like 25% French Canadian. No one cares. I don't know what he said to Martin Maldonado, but do you think that he said, that shouldn't happen here? And obviously, there were probably some sort of expletives involved. I don't think he was of the right mind to be able to put together a thought like that. Garcia continued through an interpreter, quote, I think we're in the postseason, you know? It's the moment. You hit a ball like that, you're going to celebrate. It's where we're at right now. If they're trying to react to that, I don't think that's the correct way. He says if. It's a big word for 2 letters. That was what he thought happened. Hell, maybe he's right. Maybe Martin Maldonado, as that anonymous Ranger suggested, is a fucking genius and knew that Adolis Garcia would lose his shit the way that he did. Maybe that did actually happen. Here's what Martin Maldonado said about the whole thing. Maldonado said after the pitch, Garcia asked him, why like that? To which Maldonado said, why what? Oh, man. I know a lot of you guys don't like Martin Maldonado, but that guy's got a quick tongue. Oh, that would piss me off. If someone said that to me, maybe there is something to the idea that Maldonado knew exactly what buttons to press. Maldonado continues, I went in and said, hey, my bad. It wasn't on purpose. He said, hey, bullshit. I was like, okay, I'm done. You're hot. I just tried to move back. That's what Bryan Abreu said. My notes got a little mixed up here. We'll get to more of what Bryan Abreu had to say in a moment. Maldonado continued. And here's what's funny. He sort of takes Garcia's side here, saying this, quote, I think every hitter in baseball would have taken it the same way after hitting a homer. But in that situation, we're down 2 runs with the chance to come back in one of the most important games of the series. We didn't try to hit anybody. I think that's how everybody who watched this game through an Astros prism feels. I almost felt like the baseball broadcast was tying it together. Now, the baseball broadcast didn't do a great job of showing Adolis Garcia's pin blocking at first. If I'm not mistaken, maybe they did. I know they showed it a lot after we saw Garcia get hit. Watching it at a bar, you're just not going to have the same kind of attention span. While watching a game with the benefit of having the sound on, we were watching it at East River 9. Shout out to East River 9. That was a lot of fun. Continued Maldonado, again, seemingly taking the side of Adolis Garcia, which is got to make it even more annoying if you're Garcia reading this after the fact. Quote, he's a power hitter. He can do whatever he wants. I actually didn't look at him during the celebration. Nobody did. We're trying to win a game. Maldonado, though, did say this on the Fox Sports broadcast, and much like after the Astros beat the Yankees, he said, they said they want Houston. They got Houston. He said this of the Donnybrook kerfuffle, the hold me backing of the hold me backs. Quote, the worst thing he did was wake up the Houston Astros. Oof. I'll tell you what, the guys had some great quotes. Maybe not the best hitter, runner, fielder. But for whatever reason, pitchers feel very comfortable with him. And I actually can buy into the idea that perhaps he knew exactly what he was doing there. It's funny to say it, but I'm with Rosenthal's right up there. If he actually was able to set the fuse on Adolis Garcia, yeah, make him a player manager. More commentary. Here's Bryan Abreu's account of what happened. He was very candid after the game as well. Abreu, quote, he overreacted. I went in and I was like, hey, my bad. It wasn't on purpose and all that. He said, bullshit. I was like, okay, I'm done. You're hot. I'll just try to move back. Yeah, I think that's all you can really do there. But again, and I actually tweeted out a video that shows this. Garcia getting pulled away from the pushing and shoving Astros, working around whoever was holding him back, only to run into the fray. There was no one that was going to stop him. No one had an angle on him. And as someone gets close enough to him to hold him back, he slows down and he pulls up. And, I mean, he could have thrown hands with Maldonado if he wanted. Maldonado was ready, but he pulled back at the very last second. And between that and shoving an umpire, I don't see how you can suspend Abreu and not Garcia. I really don't. It can't be one or the other here. If it was going to be one or the other, and of course I'm biased, but I would say it's Garcia. More comments from Bryan Abreu. Quote, I don't care about celebrations. That was a big, big moment. Big spot for him. Garcia hit a homer and he can celebrate. He can do whatever he wants. I just went in and tried to compete against him. Abreu, for his part, pounds his chest after strikeouts. He doesn't quite go Hector Neris, but that is a dancer out there. Let's read some more comments before we continue reading reading the accounts of what went down. Sorry, I had a little brain fart there. My kitchen is dirty. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Paulie, I'll cash app you $100 if you shave your beard like Mike Fiers did. I don't want to look like a rat. If you're gonna make me do that, we're gonna make that an even $10,000. I think that's you gotta set your market high. Eddie Garcia says, anyone who leaves the dugout should be fined and suspended. Nothing good comes out of a big brawl where professional athletes can cause some real damage. Imagine if that happened. Everyone got suspended. And then game 6 is just a bunch of randos. Minor league on minor league. Eddie continues saying, kids do not need to see adults acting this way. Well, therein lies the problem. It is a kid's game. Sports are kids' games, are they not? It's just professional versions of it. I understand that idea. If you're a parent, it's a different perspective that you have on this than someone like I might have on this. More comments. Texas Tech says, you already know Manfred is looking for bullshit reasons to fuck the Astros over. Maybe, maybe not. I think this is really the umpires. I'm not looking at some grand conspiracy here, but I do think this is the wrong call. Joseph is agreeing. He's getting some clout back with the owners by suspending Abreu. We can't afford him losing going into the World Series. I imagine he appeals it. I think the real question is how long does the appeal last? Because I do think that this is an appeal that should be pushed all the way back to the next season if that's what happened with Yuli Gurriel, but maybe they get punished because this is another incident that happened in the playoffs. If they are not allowed to push the appeal back, all right, maybe I'll start thinking the same way you guys are. Get money, fug, bitches, nice YouTube handle. Comments. Where did it go? Where did it go? It was right there. Oh, there it is. Rule says Garcia should be suspended for putting his hands on the ump. Aaron Russell says the appeal takes 48 hours. Yeah, so close it out as late as you possibly can to make sure that Game 7 works. That would suck to not have Abreu potentially for the first 2 games of the World Series. I do imagine the appeal will be denied. More comments, more accounts of what went down between Adolis Garcia and Bryan Abreu and Martin Maldonado. Justin Verlander saying the same things. I don't think anybody is mad about him pimping a homer. It was the biggest homer in his career, quite honestly. That's a backhanded compliment. Good job, Justin. And another account says, everyone in the Astros clubhouse said they weren't bothered by Garcia's emotions. That's the best way you can defend your guy and prevent Abreu from potentially getting suspended. Here are the Rangers accounts. I already talked about the anonymous Ranger saying Maldy's smart and they got exactly what they wanted. Here's Bruce Bochy. It was a long break. It was taking too long, to be honest. The whole thing is a bunch of crap, to be honest. What happened there? Who knows what intentions are, but it's not the first time it's happened. He is right on that. The intentions, it's not the first time it's happened. And that it took too long. The umpires took way too long to clean it up. Credit to Dusty Baker for making it more difficult for them. I think I would have made it more difficult myself. It is interesting that when a person gets thrown out of the game, they just have to go back to the clubhouse on their own. There's no security taking them out. It would be pretty funny to see at some point some guy just refusing to leave and security having to figure out a way to move an athlete. There's probably some liability concerns if you were to go about it that way. Nathaniel Lowe had this to say about Bryan Abreu hitting Garcia. Quote, wasn't it an odd time for Abreu to hit Garcia? It's a beautiful excuse, isn't it? Here's the actual quote. Lowe asks, that's how I view it. When half your bench is running out in a hurry and guys on the injured list, that's Lance McCullers, want to run their mouth and starters who aren't involved want to get involved, it seems like there are more emotions tied in than gameplay. We referenced Marcus Simeon's quote a little bit before. I really do think this is the only rational take on it. Every single Houston Astro is going to take Abreu's side, and every single Ranger is going to take Adolis Garcia's side. Here's what the umpires had to say about it. Crew chief James Hoy told a pool reporter all 6 umpires had determined Abreu's pitch was intentional. Garcia was ejected for being the aggressor and trying to go through plate umpire to Marvin Hudson to get to Maldonado. So they even acknowledged that hands were crossed, that he shoved the umpire. Baker was ejected for arguing Abreu's ejection. The umpire said they took their time because they did not want to make a mistake. Well, I think baseball made more of a mistake here. I do get tossing Abreu and Garcia after something like that comes down from a neutral perspective. It's more the suspension side of things that I truly don't get 24 hours later. Jose Altuve, meanwhile, had some awesome quotes after the game. Altuve did hit that 3-run homer. And if you just need another reminder of the kind of guy Jose Altuve is, I really enjoyed reading this. He was asked about his home run, and he said this, quote, I know everybody is talking about the homer, but if you go and see Diaz's base hit and the Singleton walk, especially when he hasn't played in a lot of days and coming from the bench facing probably one of the best closers right now in the playoffs. So I think the key was these two guys and to be able to score all those runs. What a humble motherfucker. And before Friday's game, which was his 101st postseason game, Altuve did not answer a question about what moment stands out to him as his favorite playoff moment, instead choosing Jose Abreu's 3-run homer a night earlier in Game 4. Quote, I know that wasn't the question, said Altuve with a sheepish grin, but I gave you my answer. How do you not love this guy if you live in Houston? And I do hope that at some point there will be a movement to highlight how awesome Jose Altuve was, that it's very probable that he did not cheat. That's at least what all of his teammates said. I hope we get that someday. I felt like with Tom Brady and all the people that hated Tom Brady, I felt like at the end when he went on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I felt like there was a great appreciation for Brady universally across the NFL that there wasn't before. Now, maybe it takes Altuve to leave the Astros, who are the most disliked team in baseball. But it's going to be hard, which is a shame. Here's some more quotes on Altuve. Dusty Baker. This dude is one of the baddest dudes I've ever seen, and I've seen some greats. Mauricio Dubon, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know what one is. I expect for him to do something great, and he doesn't disappoint. Not a lock, given the way that they have handled some of the other players that are accused of cheating. Definitely not a lock. Here's what Alex Bregman had to say about Jose Altuve. Quote, "It's literally an honor to take the field with him every single day and to see how he goes about his business. I hope my 14-month-old son grows up to be the man that he is." Jesus, that's about as good of an endorsement as you're ever going to see. I'd be remiss. I did miss these quotes from Dusty Baker about the kerfuffle. Quote, "Most of us want to play ball. Most of us don't want to box." Dusty's Dustyisms are great. Did you see he's got a plant in the dugout? Makes me wonder about some of the other things that Dusty Botanist Baker might be growing at home, if you get my drift. "I haven't been that mad in a long time," said Dusty last night, "and I don't usually get mad about nothing." Adding he couldn't see if his team got fired up because, quote, "I wasn't seeing nothing. I was just seeing red." You know? If you don't love Dusty's blow up, too, I don't know what to tell you. That's how every single Astro fan watching the game on their couch was feeling after seeing that Abreu got ejected. And then at first, Garcia seemingly wasn't ejected. That's how we all felt. All right, we'll read a couple of comments, and I'm about to go head out and have myself a Saturday. YouTube.com/PaulGallant. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Half Nielsen on the Twitch says, "Thank you for wearing your white rally pants yesterday, Paulie. I did not wear the white rally pants. I am wearing the white pants tonight, though. It's nice and warm. Got some friends moving to Florida." What else do we have? Comment-wise, Robert McCrory asks, YouTube.com/PaulGallant, "Paul, what's the odds someone gets hit in Game 6? 100%. Think about it from this perspective. What are the odds that Framber Valdez doesn't have a great outing, starts to get frazzled, and throws at somebody while that's going down? I'm not saying it's probable, but I'm saying that there should be odds for that, and they should not be too high. They should not be that impossible. Joseph comments in response to that, "If anyone gets hit, it will be another bench clearing situation. They can't warn both teams before anything happens." What else do we have? YouTube.com/PaulGallant. "The true facts are that Texas will be good for years to come, especially when DeGrom and Scherzer are 100%. So we need to show them how hard it will be to take the division away from the Astros." I'm with you there. I like that there's some final animosity between these teams. We haven't seen that since 2015. I remember I was on a date with a girl who actually worked for the Astros. I think it was 80s night. We both went in costumes and nobody else did, and we were kind of bummed out about it. And there was a dust-up between the Astros and Rangers that year. That was the first year the Astros actually challenged the Rangers in the AL West. The Rangers won the division, but the Astros won the wild card. And, of course, you know what happened in the wild card series against the Royals. More comments. Do it, Rangers. Throw out the Astros. They could use an extra base runner while playing at home anyways. I don't think the Rangers will do it unless the thing gets out of hand. I think the Rangers understand their situation right now and that they have to make sure that their pitchers are pitching as long as they possibly can. Any hit batter that seems remotely intentional, that guy's probably going to be gone right away. Because I do think the umpires now, with the lack of a suspension for Garcia, I do think that they have to be heavy with the hammer. But then again, who knows what the fuck's going to happen, you know? What else do we have? YouTube.com/PaulGallant. Joe Mama says, "I don't think it was on purpose, but you just can't hit Adolis there." It was his first at-bat since he did that. But, man, I'm still having a hard time thinking that would have been intentional. Robert McCrory says, "I need a prediction, Paul, Game 6. I don't like predictions. I know that's a cop-out, but I truly don't know. I don't know what to make of Framber Valdez at all. I have very little faith in this year's version of him. I hope that he surprises all of us. He's going to need the Minute Maid Park crowd's help. But no, I'm not doing a prediction on it. I just don't feel great about Framber out there. Astros need a new rivalry. Isn't that such a first world problem? The Yankees are dead. Mariners kind of underachieved. Yeah. Sirius Black, number 7. I cannot believe they suspended him for game 6 and 7. Sirius, I can't believe you're alive. I thought Bellatrix Lestrange killed you. Aaron Russell, the final thought. No one knows with Framber. No one knows indeed. But I do know that I appreciate you guys for tuning in on a late night edition, a weekend edition episode of the Gallant Says podcast, youtube.com/Paul Gallant or twitch.tv/Gallant Says. Subscribe if you haven't, or like the video or something. And if you like it in podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. So long, farewell. Enjoy Game 6. We'll have a post-game show once I get back from Minute Maid Park. I'm going to assume it'll start at maybe 11:30, midnight or something like that. It'll be pretty late since the game's starting at 7, and since this last game lasted as long as it did, I imagine this one's going to last long too. But until then, so long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful Saturday and Sunday morning. We'll be back at it Sunday night, early Monday